Meet the Mets, meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life, because the Mets are really socking the ball, knocking those home runs over the wall. East side, west side, everybody's coming down to meet the Mets of New York town. Oh, the butcher and the baker and the people on the streets, where do they go? To meet the Mets! Oh, they're hollering and cheering and they're jumping in their seats, where do they go? To meet the Mets! All the fans are true to the orange and blue, so hurry up and come on down, 'cause we got ourselves a ball club, the Mets of New York town. Give them a yell, give them a hand, and let them know you're rooting in the stand. Come on and meet the Mets, meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life, because the Mets are really socking the ball, knocking those home runs over the wall. East side, west side, everybody's coming down to meet the Mets of New York town, of New York town.
What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to another Mets PostGame Show right here on the channel. Hopefully, everybody is having a real good day if you're a Mets fan, as the Mets take another series, win 7-3, and another, and I repeat, another clutch hit. 3-run homer from my main man, Francisco Lindor. All the haters be damned. What another clutch hit from that guy. Tell me, who do you want up other than Lindor or Nimmo? That's how good these two men are. That's what I'm talking about. That's why when we traded for him, I bought the jersey at the MLB shop in NYC the next day. This guy is clutch. This guy is a leader. This guy steps up in the biggest moments, right? We all write this shit on him, but when the biggest moments happen, Lindor is there. He did it with Cleveland when they made the playoffs and they were in the World Series, the big hits he got. This guy is made for prime time. That's it. Very simple, right? It was looking like the Mets were only going to get 4 runs that they got in the second inning, and it was going to be a nail biter. We probably would have had to use Diaz in the ninth in a 1-run ball game. That was a huge hit, not only to give us some insurance runs, but it saves Edwin Diaz for tomorrow. And kudos to Jose Buto and Nunez, because now you can piggyback Hauser and Diaz along with Quintana pitching tomorrow. So you know you got 2 guys in your bullpen in Hauser who can go multiple innings, and Diaz can pitch tonight, tomorrow, with Quintana, who's pitching his best baseball of the year right now. The Mets on a 5-game winning streak. They're 5-0 on this homestand and looking to sweep a homestand before the first half is over, before the All-Star break, and get the 50 wins and 5 games over 500. 49-45 is our New York Mets, winning 7-3 against the Colorado Rockies. Get hyped, ladies and gentlemen. This team is damn good. When they get solid bullpen, this team is not easy to beat. And listen, the Rockies are a really bad team, but they got a lot of good bats in that lineup that they're a pesky hitting team, right? They chip away. That's what they do. Their pitching is not very good, and they just haven't been good all year. But they got a good amount of bats in that lineup that can be dangerous. And Christian Scott didn't really have it today. Only went 4 1/3. Not what you wanted to see from Christian Scott. His pitch count was kind of low, and if he was not walking guys, giving up some hits, that home run, it was just man. I wanted to push him through to at least 5 innings, but that's why you have Jose Buto and Nunez available, or even Hauser for that matter, just in case, because Christian Scott was coming out of this game regardless because of pitch count at some point. His pitch count, if he was pitching well, he might have got through a 6th inning the way his pitch count was kind of low, but just couldn't do it. Couldn't actually get the first win of the season for him. And, we get him back going out for his next start. But this is what the Mets have to do with Christian Scott. Regardless of if he pitches well or not, you got to have a guy like a Buto, like a Nunez, like a Hauser to piggyback off of him for multiple innings, because he's going to be a 5-inning pitcher on most nights, regardless of how good he's going to be. And that was what I was hoping for. You see how Mendoza had the plan. He had all his extra inning guys that have multiple innings ready to go for a circumstance just like this, with Christian Scott only going 4 1/3. It was set up perfectly. And by the way, once again, the Mets find a way to put up over 6 runs in a ball game, right? It took a little bit later in the game with the Lindor 3-run bomb to dead center, but they got it done, right? They find a way again. When your starter only goes 4 1/3, they found a way. They put up zeros the rest of the way. And it led to the bottom of the 8th, 4 insurance runs. And it's so important, right? First thing on my mind, we don't have to use Diaz. That is huge. Pogs, how you doing? How's it going? And that's why it's important, because just think if we had to use Diaz today, he would have pitched back-to-back days, probably wouldn't be there tomorrow. You would have Ottavino, you would have Danny Young, and Adrian Hauser. That would have been your 3 guys going into tomorrow. That doesn't feel like very confident, is it? Because there's a pretty good chance that Hauser, depending on what Quintana does, you would hope Quintana can go 6 or 7. But if he doesn't and only goes 5, you're going to use Hauser for probably 2 innings, maybe 3. And now you're going to use Danny Young and Ottavino to close out a game. Hopefully it's not a close game and the Mets are winning by a lot. But still, there's nowhere to turn if things get fishy late in the game. So that's why those insurance ones are extra important. Not only regardless who was going to pitch tonight, you don't want to lose that game. Because if Diaz blows it and you lose that game, you don't have Diaz tomorrow, and now you got to salvage a series win in game 3. Now, you're going for the kill. You're going for the throw. You're going for the sweep. That's what they got to do tomorrow. Tomorrow, all hands on deck. Whoever's available, go out there, give your best performance. I don't care about pitch count for any of these bullpen arms. The All-Star break is here. You get a couple of days off, 4 days to be exact, or 3 days to be exact, and you get back to it for the second half. That's what they got to do tomorrow. Consuelo, how you doing? Great win, absolutely. I tell you, man, oh man, God, it puts a huge smile on my face with Francisco Lindor, because, oh my God, was I sick of the haters. Look, we all know he has to be better to start the season, right? He was one of the main reasons why Francisco Lindor it started off bad, and the reason why the team started off bad, he was one of the reasons, right? There's no question about that, right? It was him and others, absolutely. But you see what happens when Lindor is doing what Lindor is supposed to do. When he plays to the back of his baseball card, actually playing a lot better, but playing to the back of his baseball card and beyond, the team wins. And all of this with Nimmo being badass. Even with JD Martinez kind of cooling off. Pete Alonso really nothing in this game. And for most of the season, the New York Mets are running on all cylinders, or at least most cylinders, on the backs of Francisco Lindor and Brandon Nimmo at the top of the lineup. That's where the New York Mets are being carried by. Those two guys in particular. JD Martinez did it for a couple of weeks in the beginning of the hot streak. Did it for like 3 weeks, almost a month. Then it was the Francisco Lindor and Brandon Nimmo show. And it's continuing to be the show. With the starting pitching, minus Christian Scott. I'm going to push Christian Scott to the side a little bit. He's still young. He's still working through growing pains. I'm not going to kill the kid. Right? But when we talk about, and we've been discussing, and where we have disagreements with a couple of people on the round table, and obviously my co-host Chris, when he talks about, he would be willing to trade a Quintana or a Manaea for bullpen help and slotting in the young kids like a Christian Scott and Jose Buto. This is why you can't. Not only is the limitations, you don't know what you're going to get with these young kids. They might be great in 2 years. They might figure it out. But you can't have them try to figure it out when you're trying to get a playoff spot. This is why I trust my veterans, specifically with the starters. Now, if you're telling me you want to bring up a young kid with an at-bat to replace McNeil, or bring up a young kid in Drew Gilbert and replace him with or somebody to one of the young prospects to replace one of the guys on the roster for offensive purposes, I get that, because that can provide a spark. You never know what you're going to get with these prospect pitchers. And when it comes to that, Buto has found a spot in the bullpen. Why mess with it? Look, we know he can be a solid starter, but when you're needed in the bullpen and he's been good in the bullpen, don't fuck it up. When it's going well, leave it. Don't try to change it to supplement something else that really doesn't need changing right now or needs fixing. The starting pitching has been fine. 5-6 innings, the occasional 7 innings that we have been getting from Manaea, Severino, Quintana over the last couple of weeks. If the bullpen does their job, we ain't even talking about this. So Buto he found the home in the bullpen. Keep it. Keep him there. Don't mess with it. If Christian Scott can't handle it right now, it's not the end of the world to send him back down and work on his game. It's not just about this year when it comes to him. But we're trying to get a wild card. We're trying to get a playoff spot. I'm not trying to figure out what Christian Scott's going to be right now. I'm not in the mood for that. I'm in the mood for winning games. This is why you keep the veterans. This is why this bullshit hybrid trade deadline is not going to work for me. Because if you do trade one of your veteran starters, most likely Quintana and Manaea that you've heard, there's no guarantee that Christian Scott is going to do anything close to what any of these veterans do on a consistent basis. He might do it every now and then. But we have no clue what this kid is. Just because he's the top prospect and he's pitched well in the minors, we've seen this story before. That doesn't mean they're going to pitch well here. You can't play games with that, because you can't only have a starter that is only going to go 4, maybe 5 innings with his limitations and not knowing what you're going to get from every start. I know what I'm getting from my veterans. At the very least, if they're not pitching well, they'll give you length at the very least. If they're not pitching well, you're taking out Christian Scott. Like today, he wasn't pitching great. What do? You take him out because you don't want to extend him. You don't want to put that stress on his arm. You take him out. With Quintana, Manaea, Severino, if they're struggling, you know you can get them to 90 to 95 to 100 pitches. because they've done it before. So at the very least, you could save your bullpen a little bit with those guys. You're not going to do that with Christian Scott when he's having a bad performance. So that's why I don't want to mess with the veterans on our rotation. We're getting reinforcements. We're getting Kodai Senga back. That's enough to deal with keeping him healthy the rest of the year when he comes back after the All-Star break. He's going to have limitations. Do we need 2 or 3 guys in this rotation with limitations? You can't have that. You cannot have that. And I believe they're going to keep Jose Butto in the bullpen. So if Kodai Senga comes back, who you're going to gradually get back into this, he's going to throw probably 75 to 85 pitches, probably not going to extend him past the 6th inning in his first couple of starts. You got to protect the arm because you know how good he can be when he's healthy. You can't have 2 guys in out of your 5-man rotation that you have limitations on because that's not going to work. Because if you limited him with pitches and pitch count and innings, or at least not saying with innings limit, but with pitch counts with both of them, the bad performances hurt your bullpen. And not only hurt that game for today, but it'll hurt the next game because you have less bullpen arms to work with the next day. That's why you can't really do what some are saying. I don't necessarily disagree with trying to get better in the bullpen, but that's why you have prospects. I'm sorry. Nobody trades from their major league roster to get better elsewhere on their major league roster. You just don't do it. You don't see it. If you have to bite the bullet and give up a prospect you're not really wanting to give, but it's for one of the better quality bullpen arms in baseball that it's on the market, you do it. This team has shown you how good they can be. Why fuck with it? Why? The rotation, surprisingly for a lot of Mets fans, would never have thought how this starting rotation has been better than anybody expected. Anybody. Yes, the length was an issue, but they've been starting to lengthen out more, going 6-7 innings consistently. That's the whole point. I'm sorry. I like to trust the veterans. I'm not saying that you can't trust the kid, but if you trade one of your veterans for a bullpen arm and you lose that depth and that security blanket, what if Christian Scott just don't have it right now? Maybe he's just trying to still find it. That's the guy you want to pitch in game 3 or 4 of a playoff series? That's a dangerous game to play. Or any series that's going to be meaningful in August and September. I can't mess with that right now. But let's talk about today's game and how good it started with the 4-run second inning. Rockies started to creep back a little bit. Christian Scott was getting hit a little harder. Little couple of walks. It was a little wild with his pitches. Couldn't get to that 5th inning, get through the 5th inning to get his first win. That's unfortunate. But it was Butto. It was Nunez getting the job with 3 double plays. Thank you, Mr. Delay. That was what I was going to bring up. 3 big double plays. Shut the Rockies down, who were trying to come back in this ball game. And they got the job done. They put zeros on the board. And it led to the 8th inning, where Francisco Lindor, again, that's right, again and again, comes up clutch with a 3-run bomb to center field to shut the lights on the Colorado Rockies. 5-0 homestand, going for a clean sweep of our homestand before the All-Star break. If they do that, and I said this in the pregame, if they can do that, excuse me, if they can do that, Mets fans are already excited. If you finish up this homestand 6-0, you get the 50 wins. You have 5 games over 500, 50-45. Mets fans can care less who's in the All-Star game. Those guys get rested. Senga's coming back. Sean Reed Foley's coming back for our bullpen. Reinforcements are coming. And now the trade deadline is slowly approaching. in 2 weeks. This team is red hot. Now, it kind of sucks that we're getting a couple of days off here. I mean, even though it's probably needed for a lot of guys, specifically our bullpen, because we can come right back into the next series after the All-Star break and have all of our bullpen arms ready to go. Everybody's ready. I would have loved to continue the flow of things because they're playing so good. You know, you don't want to stop that momentum, but you can't do nothing about it. So that's what I see right now from this team. I see confidence. I seen like somebody's going to get the big hit. And a lot of the times it's Nimmo, and a lot of the times it's Lindor. It was JD Martinez a couple of weeks ago. Harrison Bader, Luis Torrens, Vientos for 2 weeks, just killing the ball. I mean, man, it is so much fun right now. Just think, guys. Just think. The end of May, 11 games under 500. All we were talking about were who's going to be traded at the deadline. Is it Alonso? Is it all the one-year deal guys? As we all know, David Stearns left options open for the deadline with this roster. A lot of one-year deals, a lot of expiring contracts, a lot of guys that teams will probably need, and they completely did a 180 in a month and a half. Playing outstanding baseball, best record in baseball from the end of May until today. Best record. Just outstanding. And they've done it with basically a shattered bullpen throughout that whole hot streak. And it's still going on. During this whole stretch, they've done it with a bullpen in shambles. Injuries, suspensions, B-level relievers when you don't have your A-level relievers available. Not really doing the job. Making games closer than they should be. Blowing a couple of games. This team is winning despite a bad bullpen. If you just get a little bit better, and this reminds me, and I'm going to bring it up because it's important to realize, even though the Mets defense is pretty good, really good, reminds me of the 2022 Phillies of how they were built, right? Obviously, they had a couple more stars. They had some stars. They put a lot of money into it, like the Mets did, really. But in 2022, they were scoring a lot of runs. Their starting pitching was a little above average, like the Mets. But their biggest Achilles heel was their bullpen. Their bullpen was one of the worst in baseball. Exactly where the Mets are. 28th in baseball. The Phillies were right around that, bullpen-wise. The Phillies' defense was also bad. The Mets' defense is pretty damn good. The Phillies, at the deadline, were hovering around 500. Couple of games over, a couple of games under, back and forth. They got to the deadline, made a couple of bullpen moves. If I'm not mistaken, it might have been 2, possibly 3. To solidify that bullpen, to put people in different roles, comfortable roles, and it changed their entire season. The bullpen wasn't great. It got better than what it was. If you can drop the ERA of the bullpen to a 9.5 that it is now and drop it down to like a 6, that's a 3.5, 4-run difference. That's a huge difference. And that's what they have to be. And by the way, I don't know if anybody's seen this. I think I screenshotted it. I hope I did. Did I? Yes, I did. Okay. So, remember how I said on numerous shows that this team reminds me of the 2015 Mets? How they were scuffling in the first half, starting to slowly creep back to 500 right before the All-Star break, leading towards the deadline, hovering around that 500 mark. Prior to today's game, the Mets were 48 and 45, correct? In 2024. The 2015 Mets, 93 games into the season, where the Mets were prior to the game today, 93 games played. The 2015 Mets were 48 and 45, right there. Okay? And we can all agree that this roster in 2024 is a lot more better than the 2015 pre-Cespedes trade. Look at the roster. You have Ruben Tejada at shortstop, right? You had Lucas Duda at first base. Pete Alonso's better, right? You have Lindor at shortstop. He's better. Vientos. You had a bad back David Wright who missed a lot of the season, came back a little later, didn't really do much, but was still that inspiration. Vientos is young, hitting the ball well, right? I mean, it's an amazing difference. Amazing difference. Yeah, Juan Lagares, Harrison Bader. I mean, Lagares got a lot of big hits for us and were great defensively, but Bader has been clutch as hell. Like Nimmo, your left fielder, but I mean Cespedes before he came, I mean it was a rotation in 2015. And obviously the DH wasn't there at 2015, but man, Travis d'Arnaud was your catcher, the up and coming catcher, was still trying to find his feet, but he was solid. And you got Francisco Alvarez. Like this 2024 team is so much more talented than the 2015 Mets. And yes, the division wasn't as good, and the Mets got hot and won the division, but it's not about winning the division, right? We've seen teams win division year after year after year and fall apart in the playoffs and choke in the playoffs year after year after year. Now you just got to make the playoffs. That's it. You make the playoffs. The top team in the playoffs in the National League, say it is the Phillies, has just as good as a chance as the third wild card team. And the Mets right now are number 2. Right? They're tied with the Cardinals. The Mets can be a half a game ahead in the second wild card if the Cardinals lose the doubleheader today, the second game of the doubleheader against the Cubs. Right? And they're going to be either 4 games or 3 games from the first wildcard team in the Braves. If the Braves lose today, the Mets will be 3 games behind Atlanta going into the last game of the first half tomorrow. So the Mets, in a perfect world, could end the first half, lead into the All-Star break, at best 2 games behind Atlanta in the first wild card. And guess who we play very, very soon? The Atlanta Braves. Remember when I said, hey, Braves, we're coming for you? It's a whole different ball game when you're getting chased and you're not as good as you used to be. They're good. They're dangerous. But oh boy, do I want that. And maybe I'll get egg on my face. Maybe they'll play us and beat our ass. We haven't played them since April. It's been a long time. Long time. And that was when the Braves were playing really well. And the Mets did beat them. So, again, they got a lot of games against Atlanta. And I'm going to give you the schedule after the first couple of series after the All-Star break, just to give you an idea. Obviously, the Yankees are in there as well. So that's always an interesting 2-game series. So, All-Star break. We got Miami and the Yankees out of the All-Star break. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday in Miami. Then we go to the Bronx Tuesday and Wednesday. And then we come back home to Queens. 4 games against the Atlanta Braves. There's a possibility. Now, a lot of things can happen within those 6 games after the All-Star break, right? Depending on where the Mets are, how they do in those 6 games against Miami and the Yankees on the road. Let's just say, for argument's sake, they're 3-3, right? They split the 6 games against the Miami and the Yankees. There's a strong possibility that series against Atlanta could be a series that can lead to the Mets or the Braves, or at least the Mets, fighting for that first wild card spot. Who would have thought that? How long have I been saying that the third wild card is in reach. And then because the second wild card is just so damn close to everybody else in the NL at the time, a couple of weeks ago, that was obtainable. The Braves weren't even a conversation until probably a week ago when I brought it up. And I'm going to say it every single show, pre, post, roundtable, doesn't matter. Mets Talk Live, Mets Midnight Talk, those shows. Or if I pop on somebody else's show, who will have me? I will say, what are you? Telling you right now, we are coming for the Braves. I have confidence in this team because with a shattered bullpen, a broken bullpen, it's not like the bullpen was better 6 weeks ago. They were not. They had a ton of injuries. Then the suspension midway through this hot streak. They've been winning the entire time without a good bullpen. Just imagine getting a couple of reinforcements. Sean Reed-Foley, when he comes back after the All-Star break, he will help. He will drop other guys back down. Now, instead of Ottavino in certain spots, you'll have Sean Reed-Foley. Big difference. Big difference. But one more game tomorrow. One more game tomorrow. Finish the job. We talked about this. The least record for this homestand was 4-2. That's already in the bag. You can't go worse than 5-1. But now, after you won today, now get greedy, Mets fans. Get greedy. Tomorrow, Quintana on the mound. Hauser, Young, Diaz available because of what Lindor did in the 8th inning, making that a little bit of get a couple insurance runs so Diaz did not have to be used, which was huge. Now you have 3 pitchers. Hauser, who can go multiple innings. Danny Young, who can definitely go an inning. And you have Diaz. Now, with Quintana pitching so well, you would think that he can go 6 or 7. That's a dream. That's what you hope for. But say if he goes 5. Hauser, right? He's been struggling a little bit, but you know he can give you innings. This team has shown you they can score 5 runs a ball game, 6 runs a ball game, 7 runs a ball game. Right? So I feel confident about tomorrow because we saved Diaz. We still have one more long man in the bullpen who can go multiple innings. If Quintana throws a lot of pitches and has to come out in the 5th, I'm pretty confident he's going to go 6. I don't know why I feel that. I just feel like I trust that veteran. I trust that guy who's pitching the best baseball of the year against a Rockies team that could hit, that can hit. They can definitely hit the ball over the wall. We've seen that already in the first 2 games. But if you keep them in the ballpark, they don't put a lot of hits together in a row. They don't. So, Quintana, the Colorado Rockies ace who just came back after being off 14, 15 months, being injured, Herman Marquez. He's going to be on a pitch count. He's going to be on limitations. So what do you do as a Mets batter in the box, as a Mets lineup tomorrow? Work the count. Make him work. Get him out as soon as possible because he does have nasty stuff. He might be probably very rusty, probably nervous. Let him work. Take longer at-bats. Foul off tough pitches. Take the walks. Get him out in the first couple of innings of the game because he's probably only going to be on a 60, maybe 65 pitch limit. Get him out in the 3rd inning. Let him work hard. Get him a 20-pitch first inning. Work the counts. Get some runs on the board early. Make him work. Get his ass out of the game early so you can get to that Rockies bullpen that we've seen in the last 2 games. The Mets can put runs up on. And they've been used a lot in the last 2 games. with Quintana pitching as well as he has, I'm confident, even if he doesn't have his best stuff, he is going to get to 90 to 100 pitches to get to that 6th inning, possibly the 7th inning, because he's a bulldog. That's why I love the veterans, because even though when they don't have their best stuff, they will give you length. They will throw that 100 pitches if need be. That's why tomorrow Quintana is going to show why the veteran needs to stay in this rotation, why he should not be traded for some bullpen help, including Sean Manaea. But we're going to talk about Quintana to end this stream. Jose Quintana going on the mound for the sweep tomorrow to sweep the homestand, 6-0 homestand to end the first half. Get to 50 wins. Guarantee to be in that second wild card spot during the All-Star break. I just said it. The Mets go on the road after the All-Star break, 4 games with Miami, 2 with the Yankees, 6-game home road trip. Even if they go 3-3, there's a pretty good chance that the Mets are going to remain in a wild card spot going into that Atlanta series. There's a pretty good chance in that Atlanta series that series could get somebody, could make the Braves stay in that first wild card, or can get the Mets an opportunity to be a first wild card team. And when you get to that first wild card spot, you got some room to play with. You can lose a couple of games in a row, probably not drop out of a wild card spot. Because even though the Braves have been not really good over about the month and a half stretch, they got out to a good enough lead where they can have that low and still remain in a wild card spot. They gave them that cushion. We want the Mets to have that cushion where if it's baseball. You're going to lose 3 in a row. You're going to have a couple of bad games in a row. You might lose a series, but you don't want to drop back under 500. You don't want to get anywhere near under 500. You want to be a few games over, just in case you have a couple of rough patches. That second and first wild card gives you a little bit of breathing room here. We're starting to, gain a game here, gain 2 games here on that third wild card spot. And the teams that are out of the wild card and either 4th or 5th, you're kind of given that spot where you're 2 games ahead of them, 2.5, almost 3. That's cushion. Because even though you might be flip-flopping the 1 wild card, the 2nd wild card, the 3rd wild card for a couple of weeks, you're not out of the wild card. That's why getting tomorrow, you guarantee yourself the 2nd wild card spot, at the very least, tied or in sole possession of the 2nd wild card spot. So that's why I am excited to finish up the job tomorrow. And I think they will, because they just find ways to win, regardless of what the bullpen does. It was nice when a bullpen puts up zeros. It gives an opportunity for your offense to give your insurance runs late in the ball game. So to finish up the stream, guys, there's a pretty good chance I'm going to do my midnight show tonight, Mets Midnight Talk, first of the channel. I'm probably going to do it. You'll see it pop up in a few hours. If I do it, I'm not sure yet. I might got some things to do. Might not be able to come back in time, but we'll see. If there's a midnight show tonight, we're going to go over all this and go in it in depth. Maybe I'll have a special guest on. I'll see who's up and ready to talk some Mets. I know some of you guys will be there. I know the guys who work overnights will be there. I'm ready for it. I'm hoping I can do it tonight. No promises, but I'm hoping I will. You know why? Because this is the best time to talk about the Mets right now. It's fun. Fuck the negativity. I'm ready for positivity. That's all it should be right now. No more negativity. We know the bullpen is a problem. Pete Alonso, we're winning despite him, but I still feel he's going to come through. I just feel it. I was hoping for it today. Maybe he beats up Marquez tomorrow. Finish up the homestand, beating up the baseball, leading into the home run derby, and he takes off in the second half. Man, would that be beautiful. So, guys, tomorrow, Quintana on the mound against German Marquez, who is coming back from being out almost 14 months, hasn't pitched since last April. He's going to have a pitch count. Get to him early. Let him work the count, work the counts. Pitch count goes up. Get him out of the game early. Get to the Rockies bullpen. The way to success tomorrow. Quintana, get 6 innings. If not, we do got Hauser. We do got Young. We do got Diaz. So there's a security blanket there just in case Quintana can't go deep into the ballgame. Tomorrow, guys, we're going for the clean sweep of a homestand. Get the 50 wins. Have this Met fan base on cloud 9 going into the All-Star break and get ready for a 4-game series in Miami to start the second half. With that said, another Mets post-game show in the books. Mets win 7-3. My boy, Francisco Lindor with the insurance runs, the big blow, 3-run homer in the 8th inning to put the game out of reach. Nunez gets the job done, gets the save, and the Mets get another series win. Everybody have a great night. Enjoy your Saturday. I hope to see you at midnight tonight for Mets Midnight Talk with myself and hopefully a special guest. With that said, have a great night, guys. Let's go Mets. And I'll see you hopefully at midnight. I'll see you next time, guys. Let's go Mets.